What's up everyone, Leviathan here with an After Effects tutorial for FPV. This could obviously be applied to many other purposes, but for this case I'll be using it for FPV video. In this video I'll be showing you how to create this transition, which I call a portal transition. Before I get started, I'd like to tell you that this video is sponsored by newbiedrone.com. Please check them out for your next FPV drone endeavor. Okay, so here we are in After Effects, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the two clips that I selected earlier. So when choosing your clips, you usually want to find clips that have a part with a common type of flight and speed in it. So for example, the ones that I'm choosing here both have a fast forward flight kind of motion where I want the transition to be, and they're flying at about a similar speed, so it just makes the transition a lot smoother. With these two files, I have one that's a higher resolution than the other one, so I believe that this file right here, yeah, that's 4K or 4K versus 2.7. So when you create the composition, you want to make sure that the files are the same resolution, otherwise you're going to have issues tracking. I know a workaround, so I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, I'd have to re-encode the entire video to match, and I don't feel like doing that. Here I have the two clips in, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to find in this guy where I want the transition to be, where I want the portal to come on. So I'm going to be tracking in 3D space, so I want to pick a spot that has a lot of geometric shapes, because it just makes the tracking a lot easier and a lot better. Right here, I'll probably have the portal come in about right here. So I'm going to go scrub right past the houses, and I'm going to go to composition and edit and then split the layer. And I'll go ahead and select a layer so that it will split it. There we go. Okay, and I'm just going to delete this one because we're not going to need it. Next, on the second video, I'm going to find where I want. I'm going to find where I want to come through the portal. And let's see, I've got a long forward flight here, and it ends up here with a nice pass on these birds. So I definitely want the video to end right there. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and split this right here and delete the excess, because that's definitely where I want it to end. And as far as where I want it to begin, it really doesn't matter. It depends on how long I want the video, because this is all forward flight. But I do want to come in, see how I bank a little bit right there. I don't want to come in during the bank, so I'm gonna say I want it to come in right here. So I'm gonna drag my slider here till I get it right on the playhead, and then to snap to the playhead you just hold down shift and that will snap it. Now the second thing you probably notice is that the video doesn't fill the whole screen, and it's just because I'm using the two different resolutions, and since I know I'm not tracking on this clip here, it's going to be okay because I have the bigger one that I'm tracking set to the composition settings. I'm going to drag this up to the right size. I'm going to hold shift so that it scales properly, same aspect ratio, till I get rid of the black. And there we go. So this is going to be the entire clip. Next thing I want to do is I want to grab this bar over here, which kind of shortens the work area, hold shift again to snap to the very last frame, then come up to composition and trim comp to work area. Now I finally got my work area. There's several ways to do this. That's the way I did it, and there's a much better way. I just kind of went into it backwards. But anyways, I'm going to track this spot in 3D space using the camera tracker. And instead of having it track this entire scene with like a split S, I'm going to just start about when I get over the houses. I think I want the portal to start being created right here. So I'm going to go ahead and split this. Split layer. Okay. So this is the spot I'm going to track. So I'm going to rename it by selecting the layer, hitting enter. I'm going to rename it to portal. And then just keep continuity here, I'm going to rename this one, again hitting enter, and I'm going to type in beginning, and I'll rename this one to end, ing. Now we're going to track the camera in this scene here. So again, make sure that scene that you want to track is selected, And then I have tracker over here. If you don't see it, you can go to window, and then you got tracker right here to bring it out. So I'm gonna do track camera. And then the other thing I like to do is click on advanced right here and do a detailed analysis. This is gonna take a lot longer, but you do get a lot more track points usually. And so you just have more to work with. So we'll let this process and we'll come back when it's done. Okay, now that that's done, you can see all your tracking points here. And the next thing we want to do is we want to find a spot to track. Now, let's see, there's a ton of spots here. If possible, since we're going to be making a portal that's circular facing us, it makes it really nice to try and find a tracking point that matches that orientation, just so you don't have to adjust it as much. Okay, so once you've found your good tracking spot, and again, like I said, if it's not facing the right direction, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to align the portal. But go ahead and right click and then click on create null and camera. And now if you click on the track null here, you can see your 3D tracked location. Okay, next we're going to create the portal. Now I'll be using an effect called Saber, and it is from Video Copilot, which I'll leave a link to in the video description where you can download it. It is a free plugin and it is awesome. Okay, so once you've downloaded it, come over to your effects and presets, and in here you're going to type Saber. And actually, before you pull Saber down, you got to create a new solid that's going to be the tracking solid. So right click underneath your layers here, click new and go to solid. And the color doesn't matter. Make sure the size is the same size as your project window and hit OK. And then the first thing you're going to do after that is you're going to parent it to the null. So it's called a pick whip, but basically you're going to drag right underneath parent. You're going to drag this little swirl and take it over to the track null and then let go. And nothing's going to change until you change your solid into a 3D layer. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now you can see that this layer is also tracked in 3D space. The next thing you want to do is drag that Saber effect onto the solid, and then under the Saber settings here, you're going to go to customize core and change the core type from Saber to layer masks, and then also expand render settings and then change the composite settings from black to transparent. And so now you'll have a floating lightsaber in space, but it's not the shape we want for a portal. So I'm going to turn off the 3D tracking here for a second so it's centered, and then I'm going to create a circular mask. Click up over here on your the ellipse tool, and it doesn't matter if you get close to the center, but what you do want to do if you're going for a perfect circle is after you click, hold Control and Shift and pull it out, and that's going to make it a perfect circle. The next thing you want to do is you want to center that so when it moves kind of evenly. So a line over here, and you're going to go to the second one, which is a horizontal, and then the vertical one, which is the second from the end. Click that, and now it should be centered in the middle of the screen. As you can see, let's turn back on the 3D part. So now as you can see, it is tracking in space. Okay, but when we fly up to it, you're going to notice that you don't fly through it, and that's because it's in the wrong location. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the anchor point. And so hit A on your keyboard once you have, when you have the, let me rename this to Saber 1 so we know which one we're talking about. So once we have that solid selected, hit A, and that'll bring up your anchor point. And then you're going to mess with the first two numbers until you get it centered. And then what I like to do is I like to move forward in time till I would be flying through it, about right there. Back a little bit, and then work on getting that centered exactly right. Actually, I'm going to go I think I'm coming down, so I'm going to set it up a little bit higher than centered. Okay, now you should be able to fly right through it. Okay, so now that we have the portal where we want it, the next thing to do is going to be to get the transition video lined up and ready to go so we can transition through to it. This is the most difficult part, but once you get used to it, it stops being so bad. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to bring the ending up pass the Saber, remember all these layers are basically like stacking on each other, is like literally sitting on top of everything else. First we need to find out exactly where we want to first see the picture behind. You can have it come out right away if you want, but I like the portal to like kind of explode the image in, so you'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit. But first thing I'm gonna do, I'm probably gonna have the picture come in about, let's tract from here. Actually, I kind of want to pass it a little bit later. No, that is the end. Okay. Build. Alright, I'm gonna have it pop in right here. Right now, you can see it just gonna switch to that scene. So what we need to do is we need to create an alpha channel that this can be mapped to. The easiest thing to do, since this is already motion tracked, is just make a duplicate of it. Control D will duplicate it, and then I'm gonna rename this alpha. And I'm going to disable Saber. We don't need it. Actually, you could delete it completely because we're not going to use it on this channel. But then once we have this set to alpha, we can actually turn it off because we don't need to see it either. We're going to take this ending and hit your toggles and switches. And then right under here, track matte, you're going to change. Oh, it's going to have to be below the alpha, actually. So make sure that the channel you're putting an alpha onto is below your alpha matte. And then right here, track matte, change it to alpha, and it's the alpha matte is what it's going to use. When you come into it, you'll see that the picture is behind it. And if you notice, it doesn't physically get larger. Like, it's not just a picture that's masked and growing with the image, it's actually sitting behind it. That's what makes this effect really, really cool. But you notice how around the edge of the portal now, it looks like it's a really sharp edge. So we definitely don't want that. One way I like to do it is take the Saber and duplicate that and bring it up above it. And so now you've got a Saber above, or a portal above and below it. And what's cool about that is you can use the second one to have the exploding in effect, right? Because right now, if I play it, it just kind of pops into existence, and that doesn't look like a creation or something is being created. In order to clean that up, we add the second one, and now we have the edge nice. The next thing we're going to do is fix what happens after we pass through. So as soon as we pass through this alpha matte's going to go away, and even though you still have video left over, it's going to pop out. So what we need to do is right after we pass the portal, the last frame until it switches to the black, right there, we want to split this ending clip. So just make sure the ending is selected, and again we're going to go to edit and split layer, and now we have, yeah, we definitely want to turn the alpha matte off on that one after we split it. Okay, also bring that Saber 2 below the first ending, and that way it doesn't come in. So there we go. All we have to do after this is really just dress up the transition. So we can change the portal around. I'll show you a couple of things, what they do, but mostly it's just going to be up to how you want it to look. And then one other thing I like to do is when this video comes in, actually we'll get there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the ending alpha. And so we want it to start when the picture comes in. Actually, we want to start just back a little bit. And so for Saber 2, we're going to make it a different look. So first off, I'm going to just pick Patronus. I kind of like the way that this one looks. So the next effect we're going to do is we're going to have like almost like the portal explodes as the image from that we're transitioning into pops into life. So under your Saber Effects control panel right here, you're going to put a keyframe for basically all of these: glow intensity, glow spread, glow bias, and core size. So after you have those keyframes, if you hit U on your keyboard, you can see all the keyframes that you made. And I'm going to back it up to about where the picture starts. Again, holding shift, it should snap it right to that. And then a few frames after it comes in, we're going to get a flash. So about right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the core size and the glow intensity. And again, just mess around with this to get the look that you want it to look. I'm actually going to change the color too to a like a purplish pink color. And then go down to distortion, glow distortion, and I'm going to put a keyframe for distortion amount, and I'm going to up that. And then the same with core distortion, keyframe, and up that till you like the way it looks. Okay, and actually I'll go a little bit more on the core size. Big flash. Okay, so now we have those keyframes. So we should get a kind of like a explosion, and then you want it to taper back off. Okay, so now on the ending video, we're going to increase the opacity, ramp up the opacity. So hit T, add a keyframe, that's where we want the 100%, and then go to the beginning, go to the beginning of the clip, I'm going to hold shift to get there, and then I'm going to go to 0. So it's going to flash into existence. And then another cool thing you can do is come up to your effects, type in brightness, and then add a brightness and contrast effect to it. And then at the highest point, actually at the first keyframe is where we'll start. And we're going to add a keyframe for brightness and contrast, then go to the next keyframe, and then we're going to max it all out as high as it goes, right there. And then again, tapering it off, we'll go back to what it's going to look like at the end. So you can just come up here and hit reset. So now, if we can render it, we see a nice little flash. Another thing I'm not liking about it is, I'm going to dress this one up a little bit, and just messing with those settings I showed you earlier for the core and the glow amounts, and then we'll come back as soon as I got it looking right. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So this is what the animation looks like now. So now what we need to do, we need to dress up the first portal. So this is again doing it the exact same way. There's a couple of things I want to show you on this one that'll make it pretty cool. Specifically the flickering effect, and then having it actually draw in. Right here is where we start the portal. So what we're going to do is come to start size and start offset, and even start roundness if you want to mess with it. And again, just mess with all these. These are all the animation features right here. And so what I want to do is I want it to end being created about right here. So I'm going to add the keyframes. Okay, come down to Saber U. I'm going to add keyframes right here for how we got it looking. And then on the first keyframes, let's go back to the first ones. We'll go ahead and take the offset size up to 100, and then the start size down to 0. And you can see the other portal in the background. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick and go right to where we want it to explode up. So we want to grab the first keyframe here, and then just actually got to zoom it all the way out. So grab the track here and pull it all the way, holding shift to that first keyframe. So now it won't be here, and you have your first portal right here. And see, now you can see that it's being drawn in. Mess with the roundness a little bit. So where are we at? Okay, so for Saber 1, I'm actually going to remove the roundness keyframe. Right here. Okay, so remember, we're still in the default preset, so let's just pick some random one. This is hot. Alright, that looks pretty good. So as it comes in, then we're going to get this flash with the next image behind, or the next video behind it coming in. Okay, so now the other thing I wanted to show you is flicker. And this is a pretty cool thing. We want the flicker to end, before the flash comes in. So we'll go to where we want the flicker to end, and we're going to set speed and intensity keyframes, and then we'll go back to the beginning. And here we want to mess with the flicker intensity and amount, or speed, so we can kind of get it to like flicker as it's being created. I'm going to turn on mask randomization and then bring that intensity up quite a bit, about 100-ish. So yeah, that looks really cool. Okay, another thing is I'm gonna put I'm gonna try easy ease on all of these keyframes too. Again, this is all just your preference. Okay, that should do it. The last thing is I like to do is, again, resize the work area so I don't have to render too many things, or things that it doesn't need to render. So I'm going to do that, composition, and trim comp to work area. And other than that, it should be ready to export and bring it into your video editing software. Another thing worth doing is adding some sound design to when the portal is being created. It really helps sell the effect. One thing that I didn't mention is if you're using Premiere with After Effects, in Premiere you can select 2 clips you want to add the portal to, right click and select Replace with After Effects Composition. This way you can seamlessly interface After Effects and Premiere. What it'll do is it'll create a composition in After Effects from the selected clips. Then any changes you make to the clips in After Effects are reflected in Premiere pretty much right away. Other than that, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to see more editing tips aimed toward FPV videos, just like this one, let me know in the comment section below.